You play to win the game.
Now, back to Willard and Dibs on 95.7 The Game.
Well, what you want is Brandon Aiyuk on the team. That's my take. We started the show off this today, just an impassioned plea that the 49ers figure this out with Brandon Aiyuk. I believe that they will. I believe they want him to be here. I believe he wants to be here, and it's only April. So deadlines spur action, and there are no deadlines as of right now, unless, of course, he's on the move before the draft. We shall see. Let's talk to his college coach and someone who knows John Lynch very, very well, and is always fun to have on, Herm Edwards here on Willard and Dibs. Hey, Herm, what's going on?
Well, while I was on hold and waiting for you guys to talk to me, Jaden Daniels is FaceTiming me, so I had to tell him, I got to go on this show. I'll get back to you when I get off the show. So
come on, Coach.
Things are popping in the draft right now.
You got to be kidding me. Can you FaceTime Brandon too? Like, we'll hold.
He'll be fine. He'll be fine. He's this is the part of it that you don't like, but it's what it is in today's world. I think both parties realize they need each other, and it'll get done. It'll be ugly at times, but I think at the end he'll be a 49er.
And when you look at what he brings to the 49ers versus what they would look at to replace him, can any college player be expected to step in and play with the physicality and the determination of Brandon Aiyuk within the first year?
Well, I like Harrison, and Marvin Harrison. He's pretty good. He's a talented receiver. There's some talented ones out there now. I mean, this is a good draft. In the first round, there's about 3 or 4 big-time wide receivers. But I think Brandon, what he's shown, he fits what they want to do. I mean, this is a guy they invested in. He's come a long way since he got there his rookie year. He's one of the fans' favorite, and the fact that he's a guy that has shown that in big moments he can make plays. And I think Purdy enjoys throwing him the ball. He has the ability to catch the contested throw. He's not afraid to go up and wrestle for balls. He's a long arm guy. He's not tall. He's not 6'4", but he's got long arms. He's got a lot of reach and really good route runner.
Coach, have you talked to him recently?
I've kind of left it alone. I'm just kind of sitting right now, just kind of hearing it all. I've talked to John numerous times about a lot of stuff, but I've kind of left it alone right now. I just think as emotions settle down, as this thing gets going, and right now, look, the draft is important for everyone, and I think the 49ers understand that, but they know they have to keep their good players, and obviously Brandon is one of those guys. I
know you've left it alone, but if he were on the phone with you, what would you say to him right now?
Well, that's personal because he's like one of my sons, right? It's kind of like when I talk to Jaden. People always ask, "What are you talking to Jaden about?" I said, "Well, it's me and Jaden's conversation." So I would try to be the voice of reason, obviously, and that's all you can do. And then you make your decisions. And I think he has to realize that he's not a free agent. He has another year on his contract. So it's not like we can go into free agency. 49ers aren't going to trade him at this point. It doesn't look like it. And I think he wants to be a 49er, and hopefully it gets done.
How difficult is it to convey that message of patience to Brandon? Because you're right, he's not a free agent, but he doesn't want to play underneath that fifth-year option yet. The team and he – it could drag all the way out in the summer. How does he stay focused and stay patient through this arduous process?
Well, there's business in football. And I used to tell players this all the time. I said, look, eventually some of you players are going to be in a situation where at one point you might not agree. That's the business part of football. It's not fun. That's why you have agents. But eventually you get to make the decision. You eventually get to make the decision as a player. Hey, you know what? Okay, that's the final deal. Okay, I'm a football player, right? And that's what you got to realize. There's business in football. Right now it's in the business mode. When you get close to the camp and you start practicing, now you're in the football mode. And that becomes very important to guys that like football. And Brandon Aiyuk loves football.
Herm Edwards joining us here on Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. Coach, especially because you just said he's almost like a son to you, I wonder if we go back in time for a second. And when Brandon Aiyuk and Kyle Shanahan were, and I don't know if I'm describing it right, but it felt like not quite eye to eye in his second year. Did you talk to him a lot then? And what has sort of been the evolution of that relationship?
Well, I think it's grown, and I think both parties respect each other. And it's just the way that, Kyle expected big things out of him. He's a perfectionist, and he's had a lot of big-time receivers. And, receivers are hard now. I mean, they're along with them DBs, they're hard, boy. They're different, and I just think it's all of a sudden it's come to a point to where both parties realize, you know what, okay, we see what this is when we get things going and how it works. And I think they both respect each other. I think Kyle respected him in the beginning, but it was just Kyle expected certain things from him early. And Brandon, he didn't know how to be a pro. I mean, there's certain things you got to do to learn how to be a pro, and it takes time to do that. And I think he's proven that. He's proven that to this organization, to his teammates, what kind of player he can be, and he has been fantastic to watch.
What exactly does he do that fits the Kyle Shanahan offense so well, Coach?
Well, I think it's all about space. Where is the space in the zone? Are you running away from man? And if you're running away from man, you got to make sure you're not running into double coverage. Reading all those things on the run. And because the quarterback in coach's system, he wants the quarterback to get the ball out. And when he calls stuff, he's going to set you up, but you got to see it. You got to see what the quarterback sees, because the quarterback at times will throw to an area where you're supposed to be, and I think he's starting to learn that.
Herm Edwards is with us here, Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game, as we're getting ready for draft week. I mean, it's interesting to hear you say Jayden Daniels is on the line with you. Like, how many of your ex guys are you talking to as the draft comes?
I talked to a bunch of them. You got one of my ex guys there. The DB, Lucas, got it from Detroit. He's a 49er all of a sudden.
Yep.
So, no, I talked to a bunch of them. These guys are like my sons. They are. I mean, and anytime they got something to say, they can call me and coach. Okay, what we got? And I just try to be the voice of reason and just say, look, there's a business part of it that nobody likes, and then there's the football part of it. And just understand, the business part of it is hard. The football part is easy because you love football, but it's the business part sometimes that gets you a little frustrated. What
advice are you giving to Jayden Daniels as he gets ready to go into this draft? He's going to be a high pick now, and so it's not a question of if, it's just a question of where.
Yeah, and I think wherever he goes, and I've said it numerous times, I said, people are asking, what kind of, who is he? Who is he? And I said, it's real simple. If you watch him play, the guy that I played with for a little bit in Philadelphia, he's Randall Cunningham. When you break him down, he's Randall Cunningham. Randall was 6'4", about 215, 218. He's 6'3", about 212. But he has the same attributes that Randall Cunningham had. He was pretty good last time I checked.
yes, he was. Hey, what's this week like for a GM? Like, I know you and John talk a lot. Like, what?
Yeah, it's going through. Obviously, it's going through. You're going down your board. You're creating scenarios, obviously, and John and those guys do a great job. You do a great job of drafting, obviously, and picking guys. And you want to make sure all your T's are crossed and all your I's are dotted. And then you're looking at some history of some guys, the injury. The scouts have a lot to say this week, but now you're almost set. It's just a matter of if someone's trying to make a trade, is somebody trying to come up, someone's trying to go down, whatever they're trying to do, those things are being discussed. But for the most part, a lot of the heavy lifting is done. It's done. I mean, it's like, okay, guys, let's just stack the board, see where we're picking. It's interesting what the 49ers are picking. They need a tackle, obviously, need a corner probably. I don't know how many big-time tackles will be left. There's about 7 or 8 of them that are supposed to go in the first round. I don't know if one drops to them or not. There'll be a corner or two available for them at that pick. Now, never know what they do. They might try to move up. Who knows?
Is the fact that their roster is pretty good, pretty deep, went to the Super Bowl last year, does that make you less aggressive in the first round to maybe try to move up?
No. I think you look at your roster and you're always trying to better it, right? And that's the bottom line. I mean, because you're always looking at not next year, but 3 years down, 3 years down the road. Good players. And so you got to look at it and go, you know what? We might not be able to afford that guy 2 years from now because you get other guys are coming due, and he's probably going to leave. So we maybe need to draft a guy at that position, right? I mean, you're always thinking of the future.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. It's an interesting statement, Herm. You can't pay them all. I think this is kind of what the 49ers at least feel like they're dealing with Brandon Aiyuk, and they've already got another $24 million receiver in the room. But I'm just reading you. You sound very confident that you feel like this is going to get worked out.
I'm hopeful. I really am. And I mean, look, I'm not, not saying anything out of school or anything like that. I'm just hopeful. I've been in enough of these and watched them where it always sometimes it's awful. This and never, and then all of a sudden it gets done. So we just got to let it play out. This is the business part nobody likes. This is the off season. This is the off season. Nobody likes this part of it, And when you're a player and you see other guys go through it, you kind of chuckle until you got to go through it, and then it's not fun anymore.
Right.
Right. It's all laughable when you're laughing at somebody else. You say, "Oh, now I got to deal with this madness." Yeah, you got to deal with it, man. Eventually, if you're a good player.
Well, so much of it now, Herm, also ends up on social media. I guess Brandon maybe unfollowed the 49ers last week, and I you tell me, because when you were coaching at ASU, I bet you were dealing with that all the time. What's your advice as far as handling that side of it for players?
Well, I always told players this. I said, look, when you get emotional, I said, that's one thing. I get it. And I said this a long time ago when I first started working with ESPN and this stuff all started back in the day. I said, you can type it out on your screen, but don't press send when you're emotional. Just read it, but don't press it. Don't press send, man. Just don't. Get it out of your system. Go ahead and type it in. And then there's got to be a button on that phone that says don't press in. Leave it alone, man.
Oh, that's next to your, you got to put your name on it. Your don't press send has always been one of my favorites, Herm.
Just don't do it, right? Don't press it. I said, if I'm making a phone, that's the first button I'm putting on there. Don't press in.
The don't press send button.
I like it.
Don't matter. Just don't press that one. Whatever you do, don't press the one that says don't press in. Do not press that button, please.
It has to be like a don't submit button right next to the submit button. I dig it. Hey, Herm, also just the draft process, interesting day for it. Zach Wilson goes to the Denver Broncos from the Jets, and we look back at what was supposed to be an epic quarterback draft, and the 5 first-rounders now are a sum total of Trevor Lawrence, who's good, and 4 players who have been traded to other teams. What does that tell you about the draft evaluation process?
Well, a couple things. First of all, it's a hard position to play. And it's hard in this sense to evaluate those guys because of how the game changes and the volume of defenses they face and the decisions they have to make very quickly, right? To process the information. That's not always the case in college football, right? It's just not. Now, with that being said, I think this is a hindrance too. Who is your offensive coordinator and what skill set does a quarterback have? And if you don't allow that to mesh with how you want to run your offense, you're going to fail as a quarterback. And then the mental toughness comes in. Mentally, is he tough? Is he a mentally tough guy to go through what young quarterbacks go through? And it's hard. It's the hardest position to play in sports, quarterback. It just is. And there's so much emphasis on it now. And, the surrounding pieces around you. What do you have around the guy? How are you helping the guy, right? I mean, all these things matter, but at the end, if it doesn't get done, then the quarterback's the guy that takes the hit, and they fail, right? And there's a lot of the guys. This is the history of the quarterback. Look at it. Go back 10 years. Go back 20 years. There's been a lot of them like this.
Herm, were you and Jaden talking about real estate in Washington, D.C.? Be real. Be real.
No, I told him I got to call him back. I said, I got to call him back. I said, I'm on an important call to San Francisco, so I got to call him back.
Okay. All right.
I appreciate the priorities. I mean that's blown me away.
Yeah,
Probably the biggest compliment I've been paid all week.
No,
he's probably asking about my daughter. She's graduating in about another month or so. So he might be coming to the graduation.
Okay.
Beautiful, nice. Beautiful. But I do have a guy in Washington, D.C. if he needs any help. So let him know.
I got you.
All right. Thanks, Herm. Great to talk to you.